Welcome, friends. It's Bob and Fran, Healthy Aging Advisors and Plant-Based for Life. Today, we'll be discussing how to best deal with family and friends about adopting a plant-based lifestyle.
And that's not always easy.
This can be a challenging issue for a lot of people, and so we've called on an expert to help us with this. Please watch to the end for a very special free gift from our guest. We would like you to meet Dr. Angela Crawford, Ph.D., a licensed psychologist with over 23 years of experience.
She looks so young. Are you sure it's 23 years?
Started in grammar school. She provides psychotherapy to address anxiety, stress, trauma, and medical issues. She has long been interested in a holistic approach to heal mind, body, and spirit. Dr. Crawford is certified as a master vegan lifestyle coach and educator through Main Street Vegan Academy and holds a certificate in plant-based nutrition from the T.Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies at E. Cornell.
Wow, that was a long introduction, but we want to welcome you, Dr. Crawford. It's our pleasure to have you with us, and especially to specifically talk about your ebook, The 7 Practices to Inspire Your Loved Ones to Go Plant-Based. That is a touchy subject with us, maybe with you and your family as well, and certainly with a lot of our viewers. We're frequently asked questions like, how can I get my spouse or partner or kids to stop eating unhealthy food and switch to plant-based eating? So I guess my first question would be on their behalf, how can I do that without starting a war in my home?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I first of all will be honest that there aren't simple answers to all of these questions, and that I, with my own loved ones, have not always had as quick of success as I would like in inspiring them. But there are principles that are based on behavioral science and behavior change I'm sharing as part of this ebook. And so the first thing I would say in answer to your question is consider where they're at in terms of their readiness for change. There's 2 parts to that. One is that just behavior change in general can be hard. Even just changing to a healthier diet, however you define that, is difficult for people. You hear of so many people going on diets, quote unquote, and then backsliding. So there's research that suggests that there's stages of readiness for change in individuals that go from what they call pre-contemplation, which is when we're not even open to change at all, to contemplation, which is when we're starting to consider change, but we're not yet fully sure. We're on the fence, we're ambivalent, we're going back and forth, maybe, maybe not. And then something happens that switches us into determination. Maybe we get information that kind of says, okay, I'm ready now. And then we take action. And then there's maintenance, which is how we maintain it, because it doesn't just happen with action. We have to set up our lifestyle to support the change. So you might consider where your loved one or the person you're wanting to inspire is on that continuum. If they're totally in pre-contemplation, like I am not open to this at all, your approach is going to be different than someone who might be starting to consider it and have some openness, but maybe questions or concerns. Or if there's someone that is, I'm ready for change, I just need some guidance. The other piece of this, in addition to their own individual journey of change, is society and culture and family upbringing play a role in our readiness for a plant-based diet in particular. As many of us know, society does not necessarily support a fully plant-based lifestyle. I think there's changes happening. People are more open to it. People are starting to understand it more. But the messages we get in the media and even from our own doctors sometimes don't necessarily support a plant-based diet. So a person has to be open to learning information that goes outside of maybe what they were brought up believing, to be open to this particular change as well. So So really you're being aware of where are they at in terms of openness to a plant-based diet in particular, and where are they in terms of being open to just even changing their lifestyle at all?
Yeah. So, but how can someone make a case for trying a plant-based meal here and there, or just jumping in and just doing it, or trying it out for a month or so? What's the best way that someone can make a case for doing this?
Yeah. Well, it's important to think about what is the other person's deepest concerns and needs. Often when we're sharing about a plant-based diet, it's easy for us to share like what worked for us or why we're passionate about it. You know, if we became plant-based or vegan for ethics, we might want to share those reasons with people and they may not be interested. You know, that may not be something they're at all open to. But is you're aware of this person, like what are their needs? What are their concerns? And maybe even asking questions that let you be more in tune with that. It helps you be ready when maybe there's that moment of receptivity, that maybe they have a health scare and they, you know, want to know what will help, or something happens that they hear something that intrigues them. You can tailor what you're sharing to their concerns and they're going to be more receptive versus you just sharing what you think is important that may not relate for them.
Yeah, I really think that's a good idea. Sometimes we get so caught up in it that we really only think about ourselves.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
we're these proud vegans, and we're doing the right thing, and we don't really listen enough to the other side. So a lot of times we get objections. So how do people handle objections, say from their spouse or their partner
Family.
or kids, when they say, well, I need to eat cheese, or I need to get a lot of protein, or whatever, or I don't have time to cook that way. How can we handle these objections?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being curious, you know, what are their specific concerns or obstacles to change? And again, it does come back to the listening, starting with listening, and being curious, like what's in their way. And in that process, I think a few principles to remember as you're being aware of their barriers or obstacles to change is being an ally and not a critic. And I took that phrase from a book called You Can Change Other People, that's by Peter and Howard Jacobson. It's not specific to this topic of plant-based eating, but it's about how you support people and change in general. And one of the key points they make is when we act like we have all the answers for someone else and tell them what to do, it creates a shame response in the other person, down learning and openness. So the more we can kind of approach this of like curiosity about their point of view, and then sharing things in I messages like, wow, you know, I struggled with that too. And I first was considering this plant-based eating thing. I wondered about that question, how would you get enough protein? You know, and this is what I discovered, you know, and these are some great resources that helped me along the way. And you can share it in terms of like your own journey, showing that, yeah, I struggled with that too. Or, oh, I've known this other person that has had that same question. You're not alone. Because I think in the beginning, I was sort of impatient, like, I've got it now. Why don't they get that you don't need cheese, you know, or that, I don't know. But there was a journey for me. I didn't get it right away. It took some sort of awakening for me to like be open to the research and to be open to the information and be like, oh, wow, yeah, this makes sense. So really being
I like what you're saying, I messages. That sort of works for me.
It's less like you need to change and more like, wow, I can get why you might feel that way given, you know, the messages we get. And I had concern. This is how I've worked through it.
Dr. Crawford, what is the best technique to inspire family and friends, do you think?
Yeah. Well, kind of following on what we're saying right now, one of the principles in the best practices book is to show and not just tell. And by that, I mean being a role model. Often it's how we live our lifestyle that really inspires other people.
Yeah.
Looking at the two of you, I mean, you look healthy and vibrant. That's an inspiration to other people. You know, so many of us want to age well and feel good, not have that decline in health that seems often inevitable, but is not. And so being that role model, and that means taking care of yourself too. You know, like if you have support on your journey, if you are eating healthy foods and not only like maybe processed versions of plant-based foods, you know, making sure you're getting lots of whole plant foods, that your health is good, that you have a support system. And especially if your family members are not plant-based or vegan, you need to have a support network of people that you can turn to, whether it be online or in your community, because we need support to make our journey strong. And I will add too, if your partner or loved one is not plant-based, asking them to be your ally, which means, we talked about allies just a few minutes ago, but now in another context, like, will you be a support on my plant-based journey? I'm doing this for my health. You know, I can't make you change.
That's a great idea. Really good
Yeah,
idea.
but would you support me? Because this has helped me, my health, and I would really mean a lot if like you'd back me when we're at social gatherings, or if you're, you know, receptive to me at least making different meals for myself. And sometimes by you asking them to be your ally, it may open their mind because you're not pressuring them.
Yeah.
And become more curious and supportive.
Good.
What about the idea of offering to help them on their journey, to be a support person or an accountability partner, that kind of thing? Is that a good idea? Or
yes, if they're receptive, you know, like they've expressed some interest or openness to like, well, I wouldn't mind trying that way, but I just don't know how to do it, or, you know, or what would I eat? You know, then certainly offering like, how can I support you? You know, first just bring great food so they can see that it even is possible to like gatherings and all of that. But then if they're interested, offer to be like an accountability partner or a resource. You know, even just like saying, let's try some of your favorite meals and make them plant-based. That might.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Good idea. So how can one use other means to show the power of food? What other ideas might you have for people to, I don't want to say convince, but at least to
educate?
Yeah, to educate.
Yes. Yes. Well, one of the principles that I have found that it stands alone is documentaries, and also other media like documentaries. But documentaries, because they have visual imagery, they have interviews, they're put together so well, that often a documentary opens a mind where we can't, a mind and heart. And I'm thinking, for example, like of a few people in my own life. I had a friend who had an autoimmune disease, and I was sharing about being vegan and that, you know, there's research that supported that a plant-based diet could help with certain autoimmune diseases. But she was very defensive. It was sort of like, no, I can't eat that way because I can't eat this, I can't eat grains, I can't eat this other thing, and all these things that she couldn't eat. So I was just like, okay, I felt kind of defeated, but I just let it go. 2 months later, she had watched The Game Changers, and she came to me and said, I want to try a plant-based diet. What resources can you share with me? And like, so you just never know. And my husband being open to giving up dairy, watching What the Health, you know, and realizing like the inflammation in dairy, he was then like, okay, yeah, he was ready. But me just telling him all my reasons wasn't quite enough. So being aware that documentaries, like, and the information from compelling experts and people who have had their life changed, they just can create change that is really powerful. So it's a good tool to add in. And of course, there are things like, you know, your YouTube channel and other media like that, you know, can speak to the person. So are they a reader? Are they a visual person? Share resources that fit with their type of interest and how they learn.
Good idea.
You know, we found that watching together, when we first started almost 16 years ago, we heard about the movie forks over
Yeah,
knives.
that was the first.
Yes.
It was a jaw dropper for us. We just couldn't believe, it was so out of our realm and such a learning experience that we'll never
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah, and books too, like the China study, really changed my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They were for me too. When I first decided to go plant-based, I just read every book in the library I could find, and then more and more documentaries started to come out, and
Yeah.
it was just fascinating.
Even one of our grandchildren, who is an athlete, watched the Game Changers, and that changed her.
Mhm.
And she's been more powerful, and her performance level has increased hugely. So
Yeah. It
we're with
works.
you. Those documentaries are enjoyable and
Informative.
very informative.
Yes. And podcasts, I would say, are a growing additional
Yeah.
way to inspire
Yeah.
people, from the exam room by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
there's others that I just love to listen to every week.
Great.
So we get the question like, where should my focus be through all of this? So this is the plant-based person asking us, where should their focus be? How would you answer that when they're trying to influence and engage a family and friends?
Mhm. Yeah, so I would really stay with positive messages and encouragement wherever possible. When we're really worried about the health of a loved one, we may share like, gosh, I'm worried about your health. And that's okay to share that. That's loving and compassionate. But to really be, it goes back to what we talked about, being the ally, not the critic, to be really critical and judgmental of someone's health choices, or to just say, you need to change this. Most people are going to be defensive. And just think of yourself, when someone tells you what you should do, most of us don't respond well to that. And I know as a psychologist, I have to sometimes remind myself, just unsolicited advice rarely is received well by people. So again, it's going back to that, okay, tailoring your message to their concerns and focusing on what they're doing that's in the right direction, really reinforcing and building on what is positive that they're doing. Like, oh, wow, I can see you're really working on eating more salads. How do you feel? That's great. Just kind of noting what they're doing well. I would add too, there's a few things to remember that are not always helpful. And one is like sharing a lot about veganism at the dinner table, for example. There can be a time and place for that, but for many people, they're going to be defensive, especially if they're sitting there eating meat or processed foods and you're telling them, why they should be eating more plants at that moment. If they ask you, well, why are you eating this way? To say, I'd love to share that with you. Maybe we can have a conversation after dinner about that, and then you're not making everyone defensive in the moment of eating about what they're eating, but opening the conversation for later. So those are just
not making them feel guilty.
So
Yes.
I get it. So we don't talk about politics, religion,
Or food.
or diet. Right. That makes sense.
It'll be a very quiet dinner.
Yes.
So we also get the question that, like, I have tried talking to my husband now for 2 years and he just won't budge. So what can I do if no changes are made by these people who are close to me? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, so this kind of ties it all together. The final principle that I have in the ebook is be patient and keep faith. And I think there's a few parts to that. One part is just that it's a journey for most people to go plant-based. There are people that change overnight. They learn something and that just immediately they're ready to change. But even with that, there probably were seeds planted along the way. I can know in my own journey, for example, that before I became vegetarian and then later vegan, I had eaten at a retreat center where they had plant-based meals and they were delicious. And I remember thinking, wow, if I had someone to cook for me, I think I could eat this way. Now I kind of can get what do vegetarians and vegans and plant-based eaters eat. That was a seed that was planted. Then I think my stepdaughter became vegetarian in college for a while. And I saw her at Thanksgiving eating all the vegetable dishes, but not the meat. And I was like, oh, well, I can see doing that. So little seeds were planted. And then finally something happened for me. It was like a program on TV that made me ready to say, okay, I'm going to make the switch. So just be aware, like for the ones you love, they're going to have different seeds planted. You're only one of those seeds. You may not even be the primary seed. And as we as a culture start to open up more to eating in ways that nourish our health, like the blue zones that, some of us based have heard about, these cultures where they live to a healthy old age and eat predominantly plants and whole foods.
As like us.
Yeah. So kind of being patient, realizing it's a journey. Continue to keep your own vision for the world you want to see, this healthy, sustainable, compassionate world. Stay connected to your own why, both for your own health as well as maybe the larger reasons for your why of being plant-based. And as you do that, you keep sharing that great food. You keep sharing like, wow, I'm feeling so much better eating this way when you can. And you keep being open to those times where they may be more receptive. Because we can't make anyone change sooner than they want to, but we can create the conditions that open people up to more receptivity and more curiosity. Like, wow, I know, one of the things I'm doing now is working on a book interviewing people who are plant-based about how being plant-based has changed their life in terms of mind, body, spirit. And it's just, for so many people, it's so transformational. It's a joyous journey, not restrictive or depriving. So holding that, and we create a tipping point as more and more of us open to this transformation.
Yes.
I have to say, for us personally, that journey has been so uplifting and so it just made us feel good. And it's sort of this freedom that we have. I can't think of another word to describe it now, but it's that it's actually a little bit on the euphoric side.
Yes.
It just feels right, and it feels good to eat clean.
We
like
don't feel like
doing.
we're missing anything.
Yes.
Quite the contrary. Well, Dr. Crawford, you have given us some excellent guidance and actionable ideas here. I'm certain our viewers will benefit from your advice.
Hey, what about that free gift we've been promising people? What do you have to say about that? How can we do it?
Sure. Well, the ebook was written as a complimentary gift for a website called 𝑊eDidIt.health. And their mission is to raise awareness of the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle. So they're inviting anyone to go to the website. And there's a one-question survey about the benefits you've had with a plant-based diet or lifestyle. And you just check off anything that applies for you. And then once you've filled out the questionnaire, you're on the email list to receive resources that they send out regularly, as well as this ebook as a complimentary gift. And the ebook has more details than even what we covered today, including some tips for handling those tough conversations and some other resources and tools as well, and an appendix with some books and websites and things that you can draw on. So anyone that goes to fill out the questionnaire does receive the ebook as a gift. So, and I welcome people to also join, my website. I have a blog that I write about thriving with a plant-based vegan lifestyle. So I would add.
It's very good. And I'll tell you what, we're going to post links to get that free ebook at the We Did It website, and we'll put a link to your website as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us today.
We appreciate you, Dr. C. It's been a really good learning experience. And to our viewers, we invite your questions and insights in the comments section below. And also be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and get notified when we publish a new video. So Dr. C, we will be seeing you, and all of our viewers, we look forward to seeing you again
very soon.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye. Thank you.